Good evening, boys and girls. Tonight, my book for Teacher Talk is called The Library Dragon, and it is by Carmen Deedy. And if y'all remember, she's my favorite children's book author. She wrote the book Martina, the Beautiful Cockroach. Yes, she's wonderful. I love her books. But this one tonight is called The Library Dragon. Y'all pardon the sun coming in my blinds, as you can see. So let's see what happens in the Library Dragon's book. Sunrise Elementary School had a big problem. The new librarian, Miss Lotta Scales, was a real dragon. Miss Lotta Scales was hired to guard the library, and she took her job very seriously. Hundreds of new clean books replaced the old smudged ones. These shining gems neatly lined the shelves of her library lair in perfect order. There were no 398 twos in the 500s and absolutely no fiction among the biographies. And there is Miss Lotta Scales herself. She kept a fiery eye out to make sure no one removed any books from the shelves. Her motto was, let me fix this, a place for everything, and that's where it stays. The very thought of sticky little fingers touching and clutching and pawing and chewing and clawing and smearing and tearing her precious books just made her hot under the collar. Very protective of the books, don't you think? Miss Scales thought that the way some books spread an unfounded fear of dragons was positively inflammatory. Books that depict cruelty to dragons should never have been published in the first place. She got so fired up about this, she didn't just discard the books, which means to throw them away. She didn't like those books. She incinerated them. Do you know what incinerate means? It means to burn them. The kids watched in awe. Well, that settles it, whispered Albert Hoops. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And that Miss Scales is a real dragon, all right. I'll bet Albert has it right. What do you think so far? Not surprisingly, the kids at Sunrise Elementary School began to dread Library Day. It wasn't long before the teachers stopped sending children to the library. They kept coming back singed. First, the principal tried to reason with Miss Scales, but his plan backfired. Instead of cooling her down, he just fanned the flames. And finally, don't forget who does the hiring, Miss Scales, sputtered the principal. Oh, really? And who does the firing? Asked Miss Scales with a glare and a flare that caught his tie on fire. Now cut that out, said the principal as he waved the smoke out of his face. No smoking in the library. No smoking in the library, mocked Mrs. Scales dryly. The principal fumed. The teachers were incensed. Worst of all, the children had missed reading and story time for weeks, and their grades were going up in smoke. So the teachers formed a delegation, or a group. After a trip to the cafeteria kitchen to fortify themselves, they paid a visit to Miss Scales. Here's the principal with his tie on fire from Mrs. Scales. Miss Lotta Scales smoldered as she listened to the sweet Miss Lemon, the kindergarten teacher. And most importantly, Miss Scales, dear, the children miss story time. Story time, smory time, blew Miss Scottilails. Why, if I let the children touch these books with their gooey fingers and their snotty noses, this library wouldn't last a week. And she stared so furiously at the teachers that they threw down their weapons and charged out. all except sweet Miss Lemon. You know, Miss Scales, we all love the books as much as you do, but the library belongs to the children. Good night, Miss Lemon, you slay me, cracked Miss Scales. Why, the idea of story time is simply medieval. What do you think she means by that? As usual, the dragon had the last word. There goes Miss Lemon out the door. That Miss Lemon is a real spitfire, chuckled Miss Scales. But she had spewed so much smoke and fire at sweet Miss Lemon that she had to lie down for a nap. She was really dragging. In fact, she was burnt out. Being a library dragon can be such a lonely job, she mumbled, only to herself, and very sadly at that too, as she heaved a mighty sigh and closed her scaly lids. And it was at that moment that little Molly Brickmeyer accidentally wandered into the library. Oh gosh, what do you think's gonna happen? She's taking a nap because she's tired. She got so upset, it tired her out. And there's Molly Brickmeyer coming in. Oh, this is gonna be good. What do you think is gonna happen? Molly was on a quest. She'd lost her glasses and couldn't see a thing without them unless it was right under her nose. She stumbled into a bookshelf and a book fell onto her lap. And she never saw the sign that said, "Do not touch the books, for display only," because it was over her head. So she held this one right under her nose and began to read out loud. So she started reading out loud, and a class of second graders in line for the water fountain heard her and tiptoed into the library to listen. Then the fourth graders outside playing kickball heard a story being read and crowded around the window. "Speak up," someone said. Molly Brickmeyer spoke up. Word of story time in the library spread like wildfire at Sunrise Elementary. Everyone was listening, even the library dragon. And her ears were burning. What do you think? Was she mad? Was she curious? What do you think? There she is listening. Let's find out if Molly survives. Slowly, Miss Lotta Scales rose up from behind a bookshelf and looked at the boys and girls huddled around Molly. She'd never seen anything like that before, and, well, the children looked like they belonged there. "I love you, Snuff," Molly read on as all the children listened. "Give me that book," roared Miss Scales. Molly held the book cheerfully toward the scaly blur. Remember, she doesn't have her glasses, so that's why it's a blur. Miss Lotta Scales took the book and eyed it suspiciously. And as it hung from her claw, she sniffed it. Then she checked the spine for cracks. Then she checked each page for stains and smudges. And there's Molly reading a book. Finally, Miss Scales looked around at the children and cleared the smoke from her throat. "Now, where were we? Why, yes. I love you, Snuff." At first, the children were too nervous to listen, because remember, she's been a dragon this whole time. But when Molly Brickmeyer climbed up onto Miss Lotta Scales' lap and didn't get scorched, they relaxed. "You're warm," whispered Molly. "Don't interrupt," Miss Scales croaked. Everyone was listening so intently that they almost missed it as she read. Miss Lotta's scales began to fall on the linoleum floor with a clickety-clack, clickety-clack. What do you think's happening? Her scales are falling off? What do you think's happening? And there's Molly sitting on the library dragon's lap as she's reading. Clickety-clack, clickety-clack fell the scales until all that was left was Miss Lottie, librarian and storyteller, sitting on a mountain of yellow, green, and purple scales with Molly Brickmeyer, dragon slayer extraordinaire, on her lap. The rest of the children warmed up to Miss Lottie right away. And there is what the library dragon really looked like under all those scales. The changes in Miss Lottie's new kid-friendly library were hard to miss. Not surprisingly, the kids at Sunrise Elementary began to love Library Day once again. Miss Lottie's transformation, however, was not complete. There's the signs on her desk about how to treat the books, and there's the sign about being in the book hospital when the books get damaged. But then every librarian needs to be a little bit of a dragon, or else who would guard the books? The end of our tale is written right there. So guys, what do you think? I think Miss Wilson and Miss Bigham, they guard our library very well. And I don't think they're dragons. But that's a good story about how to take care of our books in the library. And I hope you've enjoyed that tonight. I have more books coming, so stay tuned.